Hello and welcome to ChinnyVision. This time we're visiting the Far East, Lincolnshire. As you will have seen from the C64 mini video, I was in Lincoln a few weeks ago and I visited a superb retro game shop in town called Gotham Games. Strongly recommend you go there. The guy who owns it is absolutely brilliant, wonderful chap, and a really good stock of retro stuff upstairs. And of course, you know what it's like. You go into these places and you see things that you're going to buy. And I bought a computer. Ta-da! It's Toshiba HX10. Now, there was a glut of these on eBay a few years ago, and I bid on a couple, never got my hands on one. But they had one on the shelf with games and a tape recorder. It was £85, which again, but then again, it's a physical shop, you know. So if you're buying one on eBay prices these days, £50, you factored in £15 for the shipping and no extras. So I actually had a chat with the chap and we agreed £80 for it. And it's all boxed here. I lugged it around Lincoln all day and brought it home. And it also came with a cassette recorder, which you can see here as well. We'll look at that in a bit though. Let's see what's in the box here. So on the case, you've got a picture of the computer on the side. It promises it's very heavy. 16 colours, 8-octave band with 3-chord capability. Doesn't actually say that refers to sound, it's 8-octave band with 3-chord capability. The back is the same as the front, and there's, both sides are the same. So there's no kind of heavy marketing on there. Let's pop her down and get the machine out. Oh, there you go. That's what was displayed on it. A nice kind of 1980s style label saying Msx 64K comes with tape deck. And he had tested this, which impressed me actually, because he knew that the loading commands were different from most micros. You've got the B load and all that stuff, and C load and all the rest. Is it C load? But basically, it's completely different from most other micros. So he had tested it. No polys. Oh, it's all upside down. Here we go. Pop it out. Oh. And here we go. That is the machine. And we'll just have a look at what else is in the box first. So I plop that down there. It's very heavy. It's difficult to hold it with one hand like that. It also smells of retro, which is always a good sign. A lot of these boxes on eBay, or there were, and I suspect most people got them and shoved them in the cupboard and then went and bought a Commodore 64, a Spectrum, or an Amstrad. Also in the box, we have a very comprehensive manual. We'll look at that. And another manual. And guarantee sticker. That's interesting. Talk about that in a minute. Comes with a plug on it. Made by Everready. Remember them? I think they're still around. They're called Energizer, aren't they? Let's just pop this over here and get the rest of the stuff. So it's quite cramped here. Other bit. Let's get all the bits out and just have a look at what we've got. I've pulled the camera out so you can see the entirety of what I've got here. There's quite a lot. We've got a guarantee card. Yes, whoever registered this never actually registered. They've got 2 of them. Oh no, you retain one and you send the other one to the address over leaf, which is Toshiba Limited, Toshiba House, Frimley Green, Frimley, Camberley. They're actually in Frimley, are they? Probably not anymore. Let's have a look. No, it looks like they've moved about 10 miles down the road, but there is still a roundabout that's called the Toshiba Roundabout in Frimley. So yeah, whoever did this didn't fill out their form. That over there, we've got operating instructions. All this really has a proper retro paperwork smell. It smells of 1980s all over. This tells you how to plug into your TV, basically. So that's your basic operating instructions. You've got some marketing stuff for extra Toshiba goodness. including a Toshiba HX10 joystick and a Toshiba 140R TV that presumably has composite. Easier, that's interesting, a plotter printer. They've got another dot matrix printer there and a data recorder there. I wonder if that's the one in the box. KPP22. No, it's not. So, yep, we got that. Got a book here, Getting the Best from Your MSX. Got a Toshiba. And we got the little Toshiba man carrying his computer there. And it's got lots of little bits about basic and stuff, all illustrated with the Toshiba man all through it. It's all very big print. This book does not need to be as big as it is, really. Ah, look, the MSX concept. When you buy a record, you know you'll be able to play it on any record player because they all work in the same basic way. Different makes give different qualities of sound, but any machine can play any record. This has been true for many years, and the standards will be used for many years to come. Till recently, this has not been the case with computers. In the past, almost every new machine of this type has been different, both in the way it works and the language would only make them run on one make of computer on which they were written. Now things are changing. Japanese electronics manufacturers have joined forces with European and American manufacturers to introduce long-term standards for computers. All computers in the MSX family, such as the Toshiba HX10, use the same programming language, MSX Basics, and they follow a standard system in the way they work. And we have over here the MSX concept and the Japanese tradition of high-quality manufacturing means your Toshiba will give you many years of reliable service. This is the MSX Basic reference. Again, bigger than it needs to be. This could be a smaller book that size, but they've made it quite big and chunky. And that, in fact, pretty much that's the same. That's a standard Microsoft one, isn't it? Or it looks very similar to the ones for the hit bit, certainly, with all the keywords in there. And finally, we have the Home Computer's Owner's Manual, because we need another manual to tell us how to use the computer. So for the third time, we get told how to connect it to the TV receiver and all the rest of it. Program loading from ROM cartridge and everything you'd expect. They could have put all this in one book, but no, they've stuck it across 3. Also got some tapes in here. We've got Breakout, the Great Computer Adventure. It might not be Breakout, though, as we expect it to be. Perhaps it's something else. We'll have a look at that. We've got Checkmate, First Moves in Chess. And Teach Yourself Basic. We also get a C10 blank cassette with nice Toshiba man on there. And Toshiba Home Computer Sample Program. 5 programs. We can have a look at that. And just doesn't give you any more details than that. Perhaps that one's had a case with it. I don't know. We also get a cassette lead. Also got a UHF out there as well. So here's the machine, the Toshiba HX10. There are several variants available, including one that has a SCART on the back. So you may want to keep an eye out for one of those, because this one only has composite. There's also one that only has 16K, which makes it pretty much useless for anything, although I imagine it's quite collectible. The HX10 was one of the first MSX machines to be available outside of Japan as well. So there's quite a lot of them, because it's one of the first machines to hit the UK market. When it launched at the tail end of 1985, the retail price for this in the UK was £279, which puts it £20 less than a CPC 464 with a colour monitor also included. Doesn't seem so good value when you're going to put it in those terms. So it's quite an expensive machine to own, although it seems to come with the Toshiba cassette recorder, not built in, but free of charge as far as I can see. The machine feels very, very solid. It's incredibly heavy. That's a struggle to hold it like that. The keyboard feels extremely solid. Very nice indeed. Ignore the fact this table has a little bit of a movement on it. It's not. It's the machine that is very, very solid in this. Not much wear or tear. There's a few little scratches around there. Not much wear or tear on this one. The keys are still white. The space bar on that may just need some cleaning. Has gone a little tiny bit yellow in this light, as far as I can see. Has these colourful keys, which feel very nice. They're very textured as well. They're not smooth. They're actually all textures, as is all of that. That's plastic that's been textured there, which is probably why it's scratched so easily up there and there. You've got a power on light up there, a caps lock key down there. Cartridge slot is on top, and of course you've got the vents on top there because the power supply is built in. Read a few accounts online of people burning these machines out by leaving them on overnight, but you're highly unlikely to do that with a piece of retro machinery, are you? As I always say, install a smoke alarm in wherever you've got these machines and keep an eye on them. Don't leave them, go out and leave them on or anything like that, because they're over 30 years old now. 35 years old, in fact. Round on the side, we have two joystick ports as per the MSX standard, and the standard MSX printer port, which is kind of half. Looks like a Centronics, but it's tiny compared to a Centronics, and it has those connectors on the side there. Go over to the back. There. I'll hold that up for you there. The expansion port is there. That's blanked off. We'll need to undo those screws there to reveal it. Some MSX machines, like the Hitbit, have actually a full cartridge slot there. Composite out, mono audio out. Shame it's not stereo, because Yamaha AY could put out two separate channels, or three channels, but two separate, left and right channel, like the CPC does. RF and your cassette recorder thing to plug in there. And that, again, that's standard for the MSX. There's no other monitor output. There is no RGB. On the side, you have an on-off switch, and down here, made in Japan. All the best stuff's made in Japan. Down there is probably why it costs so much. Overall, it feels like a very solid unit. It feels extremely well, but a lot of the Japanese MSX machines do actually. They all feel very solid. There's nothing cheap about any of this keyboard. Any rattle you hear there is just the machine moving on the table. It feels very, very nice. There are some things to watch out when buying these. Apparently there are some of the video chips or the video generators can need replacing. If you get funny colours on your Toshiba, you'll need a new video generator. I believe Time Mouth Software has something on his YouTube about refurbing one of these units that he got that had funny colours. While we're here, let's look at this cassette recorder before we open up the Toshiba and have a look inside. Toshiba cassette recorder, compatible with Toshiba MSX computers and every other 8-bit computer. This will be very interesting because, of course, this will be able to be used on any computer you like. All right, how do we get that out of there? Well, it's not completely new. That has been used by the looks of it. Oh, very nice. Anything else in there? Mains lead there. And oh yes, look at that. What to do if your cassette spools are too tight or things are coming out of your cassette. Put a pencil in and wind it round. That's you see that on memes online, don't you? If you don't know what this and this mean, then you're not a child of the 80s. And important notes concerning cassette tapes and various bits, and just it's a manual for how to operate a cassette recorder. Right, let's have a look at the unit itself. So we've got very nice buttons there. You can hold down, rewind and fast forward whilst the play button is down. Got a pause button, and the mechanism feels quite nice. Not much wear and tear in there. Not an awful lot. It's been used, but not, I wouldn't say, a huge amount. That's interesting. That's not a feature you see a lot. So if you put the monitor on, whatever's going into the machine will come out of the speaker. That could be useful for Spectrum owners, actually, because it depends if the record button needs to be pressed down or not, or if it monitors at all times. Because actually, you could use this as a speaker on your Spectrum, potentially, if it monitors just every time you have it on. Automatic level control. Now, that's... I don't know if that'd be a bad idea if you're recording your own audio or not, because what it would do is it bring the levels up to the maximum, basically. It's basically an AGC, an automatic gain control, but I don't know how that would impact computer recording. Let's see if it says anything in the manual. Right, the manual says the ALC switch should be set to on when saving computer programs. If the program will fail to save, turn the ALC switch to off and save again. So on the side here, we got our mains in, no external adapters. Goodness me, wasn't it a dreadful day when they moved these things to external adapters? Microphone in / save, remote socket, which is 2.5mm, volume there, and your earphone / load in. No tone control. Any computer cassette recorder or cassette recorder with a tone control is just a nightmare. It can take batteries in the back. What batteries it take? It takes C cells. It takes C cells, and it's got some kind of... I don't know what that's for. Is it for the speaker? Oh, look at that. Can you see that? Presumably that's the back of the speaker. It's going to push audio out the back as well, like with other speakers, to make the sound richer, rather than it vibrating around in the case. How clever. And it's rated for 240 volts only, so it's not dual voltage. Made in Japan. Also made in Korea, but Toshiba Corporation, Tokyo, Japan. The Japanese companies did this a lot because everything was moving to Korea at this stage, like Amstrad did. So they'd say Japan and then down below Korea. But it's quite a stylish unit. I mean, shame it's not in grey like the MSX itself, but in fact, it looks like that would look very good. Whisper it next to your Sony Hitbit, one of the original 75 ones. It would suit it very well. I think I know where this is going, because it's going to look pretty nice next to it. I wonder if the belt and everything in there's okay. But belts are easy to replace. So as this is ChinnyVision, what we're going to do is we're going to open this up and see what secrets are revealed to us within. Clue, it's going to be a Z80. I'll tell you what I've just noticed. There's actually RF shielding underneath the main board there. You can see the metal. You probably can't see on the camera. I can see just when I got close. RF shielding under the main board, which is serious engineering for a computer from 1985. One screw. Screws aren't that deep, and they've got are they washers on the other? Each screw has a washer on it. So if you get an MSX in for a repair and it's missing screws, they should actually be machine screws with rounded heads and a washer on them. Right, I've got them all out. So very carefully, I can lift the lid off. He says, hoping he's got them all out. Because you don't know how the keyboard's connected at this stage. So let's have a look. Can you see here? It's wires, not a ribbon cable. Ooh. Well, looky here. Look at this. Wow. Isn't this why we have these computers? Look at that. And look at the keyboard as well. Are those keys switched? Or are they on membranes? I was looking underneath all the solder points. I'm wondering if I don't want to take that keyboard out. Feels like a membrane, but they've got 4 contacts on. You see, let me pull you out a bit. I'm not a keyboard expert, and I don't want to start disrupting this because it's been screwed in for years, and if it is a membrane, you don't want to disturb a keyboard membrane. But look, what I'd usually expect is some kind of ribbon cable coming across, or wires going into a backplate there, and then there'll be a membrane on top of that, and then the keys itself. But look what you've got here. It's more akin to a BBC Micro, where what you've got is 4 little contacts on each one for each key, as if there's a switch on each of those keys, which partly explains why the machine's quite expensive, because that's expensive to do. I could be wrong. And, you know, I'm always very wary of coming on YouTube and getting things wrong. But, I mean, it looks to me like those keys are all individually switched. Well, that's not deep enough. I don't know, though. I really don't know. I don't really want to start taking this out to find out. But the fact there's the 4 there, yeah, I don't know. I mean, why would you have a circuit board there? Who makes this circuit board? It's a custom circuit board because it's got the LED points on there as well, marked on there. But yeah, interesting. Someone would probably know. Is that a repair there? Down there? Let's get even close to the main board. Now, you're at a slightly funny angle here because I've had a look at disconnecting the keyboard so you can get directly in, but I'm leaving it connected because those connectors there are very, very tight, and you don't want to start unnecessarily forcing 30-year-old hardware around. So I'm leaving that alone. What have we got in here that I can see? We've got a Sharp Z80 processor, dated. This is quite interesting. I'm trying to read the date codes on the chips. Now, if I'm right, that Yamaha is either week 12 or week 47, 1987. But some of the other chips appear to indicate 1984. Now, I'm wondering if that isn't in fact a date code on the Yamaha chip there, or it's actually been replaced at some stage. It's socketed, so you wouldn't be able to tell, because no soldering would be needed. So all very clean in here. There's nothing else pretty much obvious that I can see in terms of date. I mean, 84 would make sense. For this to be still sold in 87 wouldn't seem right, but a repair, of course, is perfectly feasible if the AY chip broke, although it seems unlikely, especially when you've got, usually when people destroy their AY chips, it's a power supply issue. They've plugged in the wrong supply and it's blown down the memory chips and possibly the AY. So, yeah, 471287 indicates 87, but that could mean something else. Look at this little board on the side here. What's that all about? There's a crystal there, a couple of chips, some capacitors. That looks, again, I could be wrong. Where's it going? It looks like video circuitry, video generation circuitry. It's got a connector that goes, a wire that goes across to there, which puts it down bang slap next to the modulator. Is it deriving composite video and feeding it across? Is that composite video generation circuitry? In which case, is RGB available from that point there? That's very interesting. I've not seen circuitry done like that before in MSX, although there's so many variants. It's quite, yeah, I think I could be wrong. I'd bet that is probably video circuitry and it's feeding composite across before it goes to the modulator and the sound or not the audio, the video composite out there as well. It'll be interesting to probe around there and just see what's going on. I think that's a heatsink. It is a heatsink. You can see it's thermally coupled onto there. It looks from this angle, so I'm coming in from here. It looks like just the top of a chip, but that's a heatsink on there, designed to stop whatever that is getting hot. Moving across, we've got the Msx Custom Chip in there. That's manufactured by Toshiba Y48. So it doesn't give me a year again. Again, going back to my 1984 theory, I think this is presumably the RAM. around here, and we've got some chips dated 83 and some 84. So I think this is certainly, it's going to be one of the first Toshibas into the country, made in 1984, shipped over for Christmas 84, probably purchased around then, and that 87 on that sound chip indicates it's possibly a replacement, or the code on there is just misleading. Here's something really interesting. I saw this cable going off to the cartridge port and thought, what's that doing there? Why would there be a cable going from there to the cartridge port? You open it up and there's a little switch, micro switch in there. Can you hear that? Hopefully you can see it. It's down in there to detect if a cartridge is in. I'm really fascinated by this. The fact that board there is away from the main circuit board, so presumably they can do a PAL version, an NTSC version, a CCAM version, leave that out completely and just wire it into RGB. Well, they wouldn't leave it out completely. They'd have a little board there just to get it to go out to SCART. It means the entire thing is modular. You produce the same board, you plop the ROM in for whatever country you're going to, you plop the board in there for whatever country you're going to, and you just change the ports around on the back. The main board stays the same, the keyboard can change, and it makes it very modular. Toshiba clearly, well, it's an MSX, so it's going to be sold worldwide, but I've never seen this kind of modular thing on a machine like this before. It's ingenious. So I've got this MSX plugged in and ready to go, and I've already tested it, so I know it boots to basics. I thought I'd try a couple of MSX cartridge games I have to hand. The superb F1 Spirit will be a good test of the system to see the colour and the audio. Konami Racing game that we've reviewed before on ChinnyVision, and instantly you can see, because it's composite, the reds aren't as red, the blues aren't as blue. If you're going back and check that against when I reviewed it on, I think it was the Hit-Bit 2 possibly I reviewed it on the MSX2. But other than that, it plays superbly. Fantastic game, I highly recommend you have for your MSX. A superb top-down race of the style that you don't see on other 8-bit home computers. It's really rather good. Salamander, and one of those titles the MSX is famous for, Konami shoot 'em ups, and all playing perfectly fine. Just the colours aren't quite as good as a machine with RGB. The sound sounds exactly the same. Of course, there's only one audio output, so unless you use a splitter, it's only going to come out one speaker on your TV. Loading Breakout, the great computer adventure that comes bundled with the system. And that's the Toshiba Man. I think they call him Blueprint Man in the manual, don't they? Rather than Toshiba Man. Or perhaps you should call him Tosh. So it's not a Breakout game as per you might expect with a bat and ball. It appears to be a game where you're locked inside your MSX. Joystick and keyboard options. And of course this is designed to show off the system. Interesting, the inlay of the game does not give you the loading instructions. They're printed on the tape. And if you try and use C-load as per in the manual, it doesn't, well, the machine's manual, it doesn't work. It's actually a B-load game. So we go through this intro section where you walk in the cartridge port and fall through all this code and bits of game and stuff and land inside the MSX. And there you are, a little stickman, well, not quite a stickman figure, a little kind of figure there. And there's a tone playing in the background the entire time, which I don't think is a bug. I think it's meant to represent the fact you're inside the computer and add atmosphere. But in fact, it's just very, very annoying. You've got to wander around inside the computer and collect the objects and set the flags. And there's one of the flags. Although you walk past it twice because obviously you set it back. You've got energy and a limited amount of lives, and there's bonus lives around as well. It's not really that apparent what you have to do beyond this. You travel between different sections of the computer, the graphics, the sound, the CPU, and so on. Like, here we go, like this, like the ROM and the RAM, they're all the different levels of the game. And you've got some, well, there's the Z80, and there's the TMS 9929. And then you go through the whole animation again to reach another section of the map.
It's an interesting concept. They've obviously come up with this at Toshiba to make a game where you explore the inside of your MSX, but overall it's not particularly good, and I think young players may find it quite confusing and difficult. Well, I suppose perhaps again they sat down and thought, how can we teach people about computers via a game? Anyway, it's bundled for free, so you can't really complain too much, can you? At least some thought's gone into it. Another game on the cassettes is Checkmate, a chess game. And you get these people who walk on to watch you as an audience. Perhaps they're Toshiba employees. It's not really explained. And it's a simple chess game. You enter the moves, for example, A7 to A5 and things like that. And it's not like, say, Cyrus Chess on the CPC, where you can actually select the pieces and then select where you want them to move to. No, it's typing it all in manually, which, to be fair, was the standard way of playing it in this era, and also the way those chess games you got at Tandy worked as well, or variances of. Let's compare the output to an MSX2 with RGB. This is Crazy Cars, which you'll have seen reviewed a couple of weeks ago, and we're currently on the Toshiba running on Composite, 'cause that's the only output we've got. And there we go, split the screens. That's RGB from the Sony MSX2 hit-bit running there. You can see the RGB is much more colourful and sharper, but actually the composite output on this Toshiba isn't too bad at all. It's better than the Sanyo unit I reviewed a while back. What I have noticed is the transformer gets very, very warm top left. So when the machine's been on a couple of hours, you tend to see a little bit more dot crawl on the display. And I think that's just because the proximity of the video circuitry to that transformer. It does get very, very warm. And as I may have mentioned, some people who had these machines in the 80s actually left them on overnight and they failed because they basically got too hot. It'd be interesting hearing from other HX10 owners as to if their video signal just gets slightly lower quality once the machines got warmed up.
So the MSX HX10, one of the most commonly available MSX machines in the UK, and it's a very, very well built machine, very Japanese, feels lovely. I always imagined these would feel very plasticky. I always imagined it would all be kind of lightweight, but no, Toshiba have really engineered this thing, and inside it's very clever as well. I know the MSX is a standard machine and kind of standard process and what have you, but they've done some very clever things like putting the video circuitry off to one side, and the keyboard is very nice. Whether it is switched or not, I don't know, but they've certainly engineered it better than most home micros of the time. Of course, in the world of MSX, there's lots of machines to choose from, and the disadvantage this machine has is the lack of RGB output, unless you find one that does have the SCART socket on the back, which I imagine would probably be quite rare in the UK. That said, of course, the composite output is very, very good for a machine that uses composite, and there is potential modding capabilities with that board on the side. You might be able to get RGB out of this machine very easily. As I say, it's the MSX machine you're most likely to come across in the UK and likely to own. If picture quality is a concern, of course, you will want an RGB machine like the Sony hit-bits and machines like that. But in terms of the MSX I've looked at, Sony machines aside, this is certainly one of the most well-built and allows you to access a wealth of MSX games on tape and on cartridge. Although my recommendation, as ever, is if you're very serious about MSX usage, then you should be looking at MSX2 machines. They've got more RAM, they allow you to do more with the SD card expansion cartridges as well, because you've got that more RAM. But certainly for someone who's just looking to get into MSX machines, I don't think you can go too far wrong with this, as I say, providing you don't mind the fact there's not RGB out of the box.